I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers, and this is This Week
in Cruton.
It's Greg Powers, our beloved.
Yeah, beloved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our beloved
Nice. I'll go that far.
recruiting analyst from Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout.
Boom.
Woo!
Got it.
I didn't even.
Nice.
I
Got it.
Two S's.
Two S's. GPowersScout. And follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. That didn't change, right?
Nope.
At Next Level D1. We are here to talk a little bit of Cruton, as we do every Wednesday. And we will start. We will start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise, we're going to the DFW Metroplex, out west of DFW Metroplex. 2020 running back Dominique Johnson from Crowley picked up his first FBS offer. It's a Power 5 offer. It's an SEC offer.
Not bad.
Picked up an offer from Missouri. As Dominique Johnson's on the board, I know that he had some offers from some smaller schools, but this one, I mean, obviously Missouri liked what they saw, and they swooped in and gave him his first P5 offer.
And he is a bruiser. And
Yeah.
I think maybe a good comparison for those loyal Texas high school football fans who are not that old, but old enough to remember Rockwall's Chris Warren.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He may be that may be a good comparison for a player like Dominique Johnson, who, he's pushing 230 pounds. Defenders just seem to just fall off of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to shake out of arm tackles and keep his feet moving, and he has pretty decent top-end speed. He looked really good at our Next Level Athlete camp back in January here in Dallas. And Crowley's offense is starting to really put up some good points each and every week. So I think he's a player to really keep a close eye on. It was a very savvy offer, I think, by Missouri, because I think he fits into that scheme, SEC, really well.
He's that kind of thunderback. You know what I
Right.
mean? He's. I don't think anybody's ever going to mistake him for the kind of burner that some running backs are, but this is a guy who's a bruiser. And look, he's a bell cow too. 225 carries last year for over 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. This guy is a workhorse back there. And yeah, you're right. Part of an offense there at Crowley that brings back Kevin Miller and brings back MJ Tillman and brings back a really talented core. And so this is a guy that but it does seem kind of odd. And I guess everybody's not odd, but everybody's got to have their first Power 5 or first big offer. This is a guy who basically before this, his biggest offer was
Abilene Christian, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Abilene Christian.
How sad are those guys?
I mean, yeah, it's like them. Yeah, Abilene Christian's
We
thinking.
were so close.
They're like, guys, we found this guy, and he's going to be. And then here comes Missouri,
right,
to say, oh, hey, by the way, we want you, and it's going to be, that's. But it also seems like to me that makes it more likely that other people are going to catch on and probably catch his film and be like, oh, you'd be a good fit for us too.
And sidebar here, I think that Missouri has done a really good job recruiting the state of Texas here over the last couple of years. Of course, freshman Jalen Knox made an impact on their roster last year. They've really cranked up the heat in the last 2 seasons of recruiting the Lone Star State, and it's starting to pay some big dividends. They have a keen eye, I think, for talent right now in the state of Texas.
Yeah, they've and historically they've done pretty well. You think back to some of their best players from Texas. Chase Daniel is a Texan. They've had a number. Michael Sam. They've had some outstanding playmakers that they've picked up, at least under the Gary Pinkel era. Under Barry Odom, it was a little bit of slow going, but recently they've picked up a lot of steam as far as recruiting the state of Texas. The big recruiting news of the week, I think that's fair to say,
I guess, yeah,
is our commit of the week, and that is Drew Sanders, the Denton Ryan rising senior athlete. He was a commit to Oklahoma. He has decommitted and switched his commitment to Alabama. That's obviously big news whenever you go from one playoff team, CFB playoff team, to another CFB playoff team. Drew Sanders, though, is a guy that I am fascinated to see what he ends up doing in college. And I'm not notice I didn't say where he ends up playing. I said what he ends up doing, because he is so versatile and can do so many different things that he's I think this is my personal recruiting take. I think athlete is sometimes a little bit too widely associated with recruits. This is a guy
used too often.
This is too often. This is a guy basically without a position because he can do so many different things.
Well, and as a matter of fact, I've had debates this week with people close to the OU program and people close to the Alabama program on what Sanders will be. Alabama, I think, has him pegged to play on the defensive side of the football. OU was looking at him on the offensive side of the football, and you couldn't lose the argument if you picked one side or the other for Drew Sanders because he's really good on both sides of the football. He worked out at tight end when he came to the NLA camp. He worked out at linebacker when he went to the Nike camp, so we had a chance to see him do both of those things. I feel like moving him to defense, you lose something from his skill set because he's so good with the football in his hands. He has a long experience playing quarterback, and he is, for lack of a better, the belldozer type of guy, wherever you put a quarterback back in the Wildcat and you get on the goal line and he can produce touchdowns. I think if you move him to defense that you lose a little bit of that, but he's got a defensive nature when he's on the field. He's really good at linebacker whenever he was playing for Denton Ryan last year, and you started to see some glimpse of that 2 years ago when he was at Colleyville Heritage, that defense may be his calling card too. So I don't think you can lose where you put him, but he's good at both.
That's the thing, is that he's so physical,
Right.
and a guy who, regardless of where you put, that nature is going to shine through. He's just so good at so many different things. That's what, like I said, sometimes – I think there's a guy that I think, for example, the guy that I think was a bit of a catch-all. I go back to Desmond White whenever he was at DeSoto, and he was playing quarterback for DeSoto. It was pretty clear that he was too small to play quarterback at the college level, so everyone kind of associated him with athlete. I think that was. I'm like, come on, he's a receiver.
You knew he was going to be a receiver.
He's going to be a receiver, but they kind of gave him the athlete term. Here is a guy that literally, if you put him at linebacker, great. Put him at defensive end, great. Put him at kind of stand-up outside linebacker, great. Put him at fullback, great.
Right.
Put him at tight end, great. I mean, he can
H-back.
H-back. He can do so many different things. And I'm fascinated to see if he ends up sticking with Alabama, see what Nick Saban can come up with.
Well, let's just go ahead and make a pact.
Uh-huh.
We're making our stand.
Yeah.
We won't liberally rate athletes.
We will try.
At DCTF, we will try to pick a position that we project them to play in college.
I'm making sure we don't have anyone else on this list
Well,
that we're talking about today that we have as an athlete.
There's not, and that's kind of a pet peeve of mine anyway. It goes back even as we run the scouting department at NLA, we try to pick and tell our colleges where we think these guys are going to play. And Drew Sanders is just one of those guys where he could play so many different spots. You just have to rate him as an athlete.
Athlete should be a position of last resort, but this is an instance in which it really shines through. We're talking with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. All right, let's get to our underclassmen of the week, going down to the Houston area. Clear Lakes, rising junior defensive back Mark Wilson got a pair of in-state offers this week. One from the Houston Cougars, a local squad, and then another from Baylor. He's already got an offer from Vanderbilt, already got an offer from South Alabama. This is a guy who shined in his sophomore year, and it seems like he's only going to get some steam behind him.
Been waiting to feature this guy for a while now. I mean, if the tape's probably rolling. We don't have the screen anymore right now where we can watch the highlights, but the tape from the NLA camp is probably rolling right now, and I'm telling you, this guy was as good as any defensive back in the 2020 class that was there. Tremendous footwork, went through the drills flawlessly, and I'm a little bit surprised that it took this long for people to really start popping on him. He's big at 6 foot. I mean, a legit 6 foot, pushing 170 pounds. He could probably play safety or corner on the next level. I like him at corner because of his ability to sink his hips and stay tight in coverage. So this is one that I've been waiting to feature. So I'm glad to see some offers start to roll in for Mark Wilson. And Clear Lake, hey, that's a team that's really on the rise with prospects right now. Wilson had 63 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 9 PBUs last year. And the coaches over there kind of describe him as a ball hawk who's not afraid to come up and lay the wood.
Yeah, the phrase that they use is that he will strike you. He is a guy who arrives at the football and arrives in a way that he wants to separate you from the football. And so this is a guy in Mark Wilson that I feel like you're going to hear more and more about, that if you are that good as a sophomore, for a program, by the way, Clear Lake, where it's not easy to start as an underclassman,
right.
If you are that good as a sophomore, you got 2 more years of hype coming through, and I imagine that Baylor and Houston will not be the last offers that come his way.
And you love seeing Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Because that means he's done it in the classroom as well. So there's going to be some academic schools that come calling for him. I expect that his offer list pushes 20 offers. We're talking to him about him this time next year.
Finally, we're talking about our recruit of the week, going back at the DFW Metroplex. One of the plain and simple, one of the very best running backs in the state.
Yep.
Mequite Poteet running back Seth McGowan. Mequite Poteet never short on talent. Seth McGowan is the next stud to come out of that Pirates program. He named the top 4, and that's quite a top 4.
It's pretty good.
Georgia, Oklahoma, A&M, and USC. This is, again, plain and simple, I would say not just one of the best running backs, but one of the very best players in the class of 2020.
And all those teams are sending guys to the league every year.
Yeah.
So they know how to look and recruit running backs. I think this is one of the guys. Now, we're going back, and if we recount Drew Sanders in as a new commitment in the month of April, we went 21 commitments who left the state in a row. No P5 commitments.
P5.
We had no P5 commitments to an in-state school the entire month of April. So I think A&M sits in a really good spot possibly for Seth McGowan, but it's going to be tough. You're talking about Georgia, Oklahoma, USC.
Yeah.
Georgia and Oklahoma especially have done a tremendous job recruiting the state of Texas. There's a lot of positive momentum going for those two schools, sending guys into the league and producing truly stars in college.
Well, and especially at the running back spot. Especially these are guys that every one of these programs, including A&M with Travion Williams, these are programs that have made running backs into stars, into national known commodities in the last 5 years. And you figure that that's something that Seth McGowan's certainly looking at and saying, okay, yeah, I can go to Georgia and I can be like Nick Chubb. I can go to Oklahoma. I can be like, any number of the running backs that they've put out in the last, at least in the last couple of years. I know they've been a lot more quarterbacks.
Right.
But still, and USC's running backs, history needs no introduction. This is obviously a guy who's looking around and saying, all right, he's not just looking for college. He's probably looking what happens 3-4 years from now when hopefully somebody's calling my name. And
another thing I think that may be a feather in Texas A&M's cap in this recruitment is the academics. McGowan is a top 10 in his class and the entire class at Mequite Poteet. That's the type of student he is. Stanford had offered him, and I really thought Stanford was going to be a school at the beginning of this recruitment that would be tough to beat for a player like Seth McGowan because he has so much of that he brings so much of that off the field to the table. But Texas A&M may be one to watch closely. I think that we'll see. But I think the Aggies have placed themselves in a good spot.
He ran for 1,613 yards and 25 touchdowns last year as a junior, and for a very big senior year is Seth McGowan, the running back from Mequite Poteet.
I think he's probably, out of the rankings that we've posted so far, which we're up to 11 now, we're going to continue to expand that into this month and next month up to 100 for our first Texas Top 100. I think that the battle between Seth McGowan, who's number 7 in our rankings, and Jace McClellan, who is number 8, is probably our hottest debate so far in that top 10.
Yeah.
Because you could flip-flop them either way, and you're probably not going to lose. But a lot of people have Jace McClellan rated over Seth McGowan. We have him right there back-to-back, and I think that's one that could flip-flop. You're not going to lose picking either guy.
No. McGowan's a little bit bigger, but
right.
but at the same time, McClellan may have a little bit more top-end speed. And one thing I've said about Jace McClellan that I've been so impressed with is when he was younger, he was basically a speed back who was physical.
Right. Yep.
Now he's a physical back with speed.
Exactly.
But McGowan's the complete package. You can't really go wrong with either one of those guys.
So we'll see. We'll see who ends up on top. Zach Evans is clearly the number 1 running back in the state. Many services have him as the number 1 running back in the nation. But that battle for number 2, I think, right now in Texas is very interesting with McGowan and McClellan.
He's Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. See his fine work at texasfootball.com/recruiting. And, of course, follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout and follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1.